7 or 8
All
years
right.
of reading books, asking people, and traveling. I did a lot of traveling. I discovered that there's a science, there's metaphysics, and there's understanding the laws of the universe. And through understanding these...
So you're probably wondering what the hell we're listening to and why. We're listening to Emilly Jolley, a.k.a. Emily's Spirit, who has apparently kidnapped her 6-year-old son, Taryn Butler. Now, here's the thing, though. This is another one from like the sovereign CPS scammer groups. Cynthia Absig, we've talked about in the past. Neely Blanchard, a few others. This same group has now been tied into this other kidnapping from family court / CPS type shit. So first off, I guess we'll just go through like a basics, which this article right here, I gotta, in the description where I put like related content, I gotta update this after the stream is done. So I'll like add a bunch of more links in once the stream's done. Using Restream to rebroadcast, I have a limit of how many characters, so I couldn't put all the links that you're going to see. I think right now I do have a link to the Bring Taryn Home Facebook group, though. And the father and his girlfriend are both in this group, and the family's in this group. So that's a pretty trusted place if you want to like find updates of what's going on. This situation, like, because I don't really touch on missing people a lot, but the thing is, this situation is it's alarming because of the people that they're with. So like, just a quick rundown. Emilly Jolley is a Utah mother who is wanted by police after she is accused of kidnapping her 6-year-old son, Taryn Butler. An Amber Alert has been issued by the Unified Police Department of Greater Salt Lake. Jolley, 43, and her son were last seen during a court-supervised visit on September 26, police said. Taryn's father, Timothy Butler, attempted to pick up his son from the visit and learned Jolley had left with him without consent, police said in a press release. Taryn was last seen in the area of Mill Creek with Emilly Jolley. Unified Police said on Facebook, Mill Creek is located in Salt Lake City, near Salt Lake County, Utah, near Salt Lake City. Jolley's mother, Lorraine Jolley, has been arrested on charges accusing her of felony obstruction of justice, according to jail records. Jolley's Facebook page, which I have that pulled up, it shows like she's super into like COVID, QAnon, a bunch of the different conspiracy groups, and then also like some sovereign beliefs. There's definitely like a hint of, she's actually a member of the E-Clause group, so that's like Kirk Pendergrass, Chris Hallett, and people who were tied pretty directly to Neely Blanchard kidnapping her child from her mother's custody, and the Secret Service even getting involved to retrieve it. And then through like just a string of scammer psychopaths, Cynthia Absig, which is, she's going to trial in Colorado over her charges of, she was actually just planning to kidnap her child back from the foster family with some, we believe it was Field McConnell and some of his buddies. So basically like the Q group, the Q/sovereign group. So like all of this is, like I said earlier, this is another kidnapping from the same group of people. Like, these guys are really past the point of like crossing back and forth from like online to reality. They have crossed over to reality multiple times now. The Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett and E-Clause, you can thank them for Timothy Homeseth being on the run. It's just fucking crazy. But it's okay. So just continuing on with the basic layout. According to Butler, Jolley is only allowed to see Taryn on limited courts. Did we skip some? Jolley and the boy's father have been involved in a court battle over custody for several years, according to Butler. Jolley has accused Butler of abuse and taking part in child sex trafficking, accusations Butler and his family deny, and which they say have been proven false by courts. Butler said on Facebook his child's mother and his family and friends appear to have been planning the kidnapping for several months. According to Butler, Jolley is only allowed to see Taryn on limited court-ordered supervised visits. Butler wrote on Facebook, she's part of a domestic extremist organization called the U.S. Sovereign Citizens and known to be mentally unstable and emotionally abusive to Taryn. Sovereign citizens believe they do not have to answer to government authority, including courts and police departments, according to the FBI, which we've done streams and shit on sovereigns in the past. If you just go through the channel, you can find that. That's a basic summary of sovereign citizen beliefs. First off, a sovereign citizen is going to tell you they're not a sovereign citizen, and that term's an oxymoron, and they are 100% correct according to their beliefs, but the federal government has deemed them as sovereign citizens. So regardless of what they think they should be called, that's the term that's been given to them. So that's all there is really to it. But they basically believe that we were like tricked into contracts with the governments from a misunderstanding with the 14th Amendment that started back in the 70s when sovereign citizen groups were actually a white supremacist group. Like blacks and minorities could not join sovereign citizen groups when they first started and they first started forming. So yeah, because this misunderstanding with the 14th Amendment where they think that we're like in contracts with the government and we can just refuse to be part of that contract. Like that's a very common belief in sovereign groups, but the sovereign groups are hard to lump up into one because there's not just like one main sovereign group. They're scattered out into all these small groups, and normally, typically 100% of the time you're going to find legal problems, financial problems, child custody issues, and some sort of scam related directly back to like each one of these little sovereign groups that exist. Somebody has an answer and they're going to charge money to get it, and somebody has an answer for everything from bankruptcy to fucking CPS issues. So the sovereign groups are weird. They're definitely odd. They're hard to keep up with, just because of that lack of central organization. They normally all share some pretty similar beliefs, like straw man, where they think their birth name and their birth certificate are just a straw man, and it's actually sold to other countries off of the money that they will possibly make in their life. And it's very strange, and it fluctuates here and there. But for the most part, they all kind of share that general drift, and they normally it's really just a huge misunderstanding of the law. It's people that taught themselves and never asked anybody who knows the law if this is correct, if they're interpreting it correctly, and they just fucking run with it. And then you end up with situations like this where Emilly Jolley's on the run with her child. But again, this isn't just a missing person situation. The group she's with is super, super fucking concerning. Let's see. Court documents obtained by Salt Lake City news station Fox 13 News reveal further details about the kidnapping accusations. According to the police, Jolley was with her son and a court-approved supervisor when the boy's father, Timothy Butler, tried to pick him up. When he could not reach Jolley, he called the supervisor, who said Taryn was picked up by U.S. Marshals, who told Jolley and the court-appointed supervisor that Timothy Butler had a warrant for his arrest, the news station reports. Police have said the U.S. Marshals were not actually U.S. Marshals, and there are no active warrants for Timothy Butler. According to Fox 13 News, Timothy Butler then called police to report his son had been kidnapped after speaking with the court-appointed supervisor. The supervisor told police Jolley had given her mother documents from the supposed U.S. Marshals. She said she heard Jolley tell her mother to give them to Butler when he arrived at home, according to the news station. She also said she heard Jolley tell her son that his father was going to jail and the boy could now stay with her all the time. According to court documents obtained by Fox 13 News, Jolley, her mother, and the boy were all at the mother's home when she left. So that's like a basic description. I'm still kind of confused on the U.S. Marshals, like if they really had people pretend to be U.S. Marshals or not. Or if they just made that story up completely. But there's not really... this is one of those things. Well, okay, first we can take a little scroll through her Facebook. Um, See, that's like a we're kind of gay. She was like super into crystals. She called herself a medium. We'll watch that little intro again on her YouTube here in just a minute. What do you think? Our constitutional republic is back, USA. Oh god, this is one of those super long copy paste shits. I'm not reading all that. Anon for Q Anon. Just found one of those murder hornets. SLC and Surrounds, who is facilitator teacher. Her healing studio. The Constitution not suspended in times of crisis. Man, I didn't realize that some of this stuff was so far back. The Silent War. Anon Babe 17. Oh, good God. Some of these people. Anon Babe 17 is definitely a place you should go to for information. Her friends. Like this is pretty terrifying. This is definitely where you have to kind of pay a little bit more attention. And like, if anybody that's been following me for a while, we know like all of these fucking names. Francesca, Amato, and Robert Slavin, they're who just recently stole $5,000, like ripped off a migrant in California named Priscilla, ripped her off for $5,000, saying that they were going to do legal work to get her kid out of CPS custody during the pandemic, like at the peak of it. And they never did anything. Her elderly parents from Brazil actually paid that $5,000 and nothing happened. David Straight, he's like one of the main fucking people. He claims that he's one person away, or actually he claims that he actually talks to President Trump. And he's part of this Pentagon pedophile task force. They're saving all these children from tunnels, and he has like all of the legal answers that you could ever want for any problem ever. It's like Anthony Sibilli, he's in there with Fran and Robert, or used to be, and David Jose and them, and fucking he was like arrested for stealing like explosives from the army. I mean, all of these people are fucking nuts. Justin Nolan, there's Chris Hallett, which she is a part of the E-Clause group. And you can see that right there. She's not active in the E-Clause group. This Anthony Monteleone tagged her a couple times, but aside from that, she doesn't look like she's like posting in E-Clause, which E-Clause is Chris Hallett and Kirk Pendergrass's little sovereign citizen group where they try and change the meaning of words by pronouncing them different and shit. It's quite odd. So what essentially is going on here, though, with like Cynthia Absig, Neely Blanchard, which again, the Secret Service got involved with Neely Blanchard, but Neely was also, I believe her license plate even was like E-Clause 1. So, I mean, she was super, super tied to the E-Clause guys and Chris Hallett and Kirk Pendergrass. But essentially, through this whole little group, they've created I heard this term earlier today about them, and I think it works pretty well. They've essentially created an underground railroad of just lunatics where they can take these kids and they pass them off house to house, and they've got people all around the country. So it's not a good situation. You got Mitch Smith there. There's a hardcore sovereign. And another thing, let's see, where was it? I think maybe it was in this one. The paperwork, which I've been trying to find who's possibly behind this group, and I haven't found it yet. But the paperwork that was addressed to Tim Butler came from the Supreme Court of the Utah Common Law Constitutional Court, which that is a sovereign thing. I can tell you just from hearing that. Common law is something the FBI deems sovereign citizens to be potential domestic terrorists. Same with QAnon and shit. So you're seeing both of them use different terms. Like sovereigns, they like common law. Instead of going anywhere near the term sovereign, they'll say that they're practicing common law and they're teaching common law. And that's kind of how they try to publicly loophole around the fact that they're just practicing sort of sovereign citizen beliefs, nonsensical sovereign beliefs, and they don't want to be put on a watch list. So yeah, this is not a good situation. You can also see this is the grandma that was arrested, Lorraine Jolley, which this I think goes into a little bit more details on Lorraine. Mill Creek grandmother has been charged with second-degree felony obstruction of justice in connection with a reported child kidnapping. According to a probable cause statement, officers with the Unified Police Department responded Sunday to a home near 700 East and 4100 South in Mill Creek on a report of a child kidnapping. Timothy Butler, the father of TB, had left his child with the biological mother, Emily Jolley, on a supervised visit. TB was at the supervised visit with Emily, and Emily's mother identified as Laren Ladder Jolley. Timothy attempted to contact Emily to pick up TB, and the phone went to voicemail, the statement said. Timothy called the adult who was to supervise the visit, who said TB was picked up by U.S. Marshals and that Timothy had a warrant for his arrest. Timothy then contacted law enforcement to report TB kidnapped. When UPD officers arrived, Laren submitted paperwork to officers through the mail slot in the door, so she wouldn't even open the door. The paperwork was addressed to Timothy Butler from the Supreme Court of the Utah Common Law Constitutional Court. So unless, which also that there, I don't know. She doesn't really strike me as somebody that put this all together on her own. So that's another thing that's a little disturbing and concerning about this situation, is that there's a good chance that this kid, this 6-year-old, is with other people. Like there's a whole little group involved in this, and God knows who those other people are or what those other people believe or what their mental stability is, because again, these people are fucking lunatics. I mean, David Straight has literally told people that President Trump told him in the Rose Garden that he could not stop doing what he's doing. Like these people are legitimate fucking lunatics. Field McConnell, one of their higher up people, I guess you could call it, he's in jail in Florida after harassing this attorney, Kim Picasio, that Timothy Charles Homeseth has falsely accused of being responsible for the kidnapping murder of Haley Cummings for 10 plus years. He's on the run right now because he keeps on violating these protection orders. These people are fucking nuts. At one point in time, Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett were claiming that they were auditing courts and that they were official auditors of the government and trying to go in and tell judges and shit what to do. She's friends with Ronnie Davis. Ronnie Davis is a hardcore sovereign who he went to jail for fucking kidnapping a woman in Florida and forcing her to stay on their compound. So these are not sane and rational people that are aiding and abetting her. Granted, I don't know what group exactly is helping her, but all the warning signs and some of these past kidnappings really point towards we know exactly who's helping her right now. Just because this is their MO, they might not be as loud about this right at the moment, but I'm pretty sure we all know, anybody that's been following me and you followed through all the CPS scammers and the sovereign stuff, I'm pretty sure we already know who's helping her hide this child. And again, that's the really terrifying part about this, is just the people that she's wrapped up with. They're fucking insane.